In the 2018 World Cup, it should have been their tournament. In the 2016 Euros, it should have been their tournament. But for this golden generation of Belgium, they are reaching the end of their cycle. And although the bookies and the FIFA rankings have them #1 in the world right now, above France, and on paper they look pretty fantastic, there are some reservations when it comes to the possible favourites for this tournament, Belgium, and that's what we're going to dive into in this Euros preview. If you haven't checked out the Euros previews up to now, then what are you doing? Hurry up and watch them. Hit the like on those ones and subscribe to this channel. It's going to be a huge summer of Euros content on this channel, so make sure you keep it locked on the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Let's dive into this team, this squad, the key men, and why Belgium may well go beyond this golden generation without a single major trophy. So under Roberto Martinez, you know what you're going to get with Belgium. You saw the same at Swansea, you saw the same at Wigan, you saw the same at Everton. They are perennial passers. They love to keep the ball, and their average possession in the last 3 World Cup qualifiers is 68%. So they love to keep a hold of the ball and control possession, and why wouldn't they? They've got a fantastic midfield. And although the 2018 World Cup wasn't a failure for Belgium, there are still some question marks over Roberto Martinez. One of those question marks is the idea that Eden Hazard is the captain. Now, this could be quite an intelligent ploy in terms of getting the best out of Eden Hazard, but on the pitch he hasn't been there. So for him to be captain when you've got the likes of Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, Kevin De Bruyne, who is currently the vice-captain, Axel Witsel, there are arguably a lot of better shouts. So why is this happening? Is this a kind of muddled message, or is this one of those things that I saw with my club, QPR, when, yes, there were loads of leaders there, but you were looking to get the best out of one of your star men. And so to make Eden Hazard the captain, you kind of propel him into that role of responsibility. Because there have been question marks over the hunger of the team, and of course Eden Hazard as well, who's quite a jovial figure at times. And so to give him the armband is either a masterstroke or a misleading idea. The problem here is that Eden Hazard has barely played for Belgium over the last few years. And this season, at the age of 30, where he really should be hitting his prime, it's been probably the worst season of his career. His league stats this season are as follows: 14 matches played, only 7 starts, 3 goals and 2 assists. In terms of shot creating actions, for a player who is the fulcrum of creativity for any club that he plays for, or national team of course as well, 3.21 shot creating actions per 90, which is his lowest since FBref records began, and 2.88 successful dribbles per 90 is again also the lowest since FBref records began. So he's not in a good place, and so if he's not in a good place, of course he struggled to start for Real Madrid. Yes, he was forced into that game against Chelsea, but will the same thing happen? This is one of the big question marks. Let me know down below. Do you play Eden Hazard in this team when he hasn't played that much so far over the last 18 months? When you've got players like his own brother, Torgan, who could well be starting ahead of him. And could any manager be brave enough to leave Eden Hazard out of a starting lineup if he's fit? So it would be a miss for me to catastrophise what's going on at Belgium, because everything is pretty rosy overall. I think the concern is the pressure on this squad and the key men within those squad. But let's not get it twisted. When you look at the Euros qualifying record, it's pretty impressive. That's why they're #1 in the world. During the Euros, they won 10 out of 10. They scored 40 goals and they only conceded 3. But again, that's the qualifiers for any tournament now. There are starting to be these major nations that are just a little bit too far ahead of the other ones. And Belgium, for the last 10 years at the very least, have been one of those nations. And of course, that's due to the star power that they have, and none more so than KDB. Kevin De Bruyne is their star performer in midfield. And when you have Tielemans picking up the ball from deep and then being able to find the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, when he's been playing in that more advanced role, and Eden Hazard hasn't been playing in the team, he has really shone. Kevin De Bruyne's role for Man City and for Belgium has really changed over the last 3 years, shall we say. He was a little bit deeper before, kind of picking up the ball, being that box-to-box midfielder. He now sees himself as someone who has a real free role to go and get on the ball and do what he does best, which is to create with his vision, but also to get shots off and score goals for the team. During the Euro qualifying campaign, KDB played 6 times. He scored 4 goals and assisted 6 times. That's nearly 2 goal contributions per game. And you can see from his heat map here, he really did thrive in that more advanced role. And it was a very free role as well. Without the ball, yes, he would drop back into maybe that sort of right-sided midfield in that midfield. But he had so much freedom to get on the ball and to utilise what he's got at his disposal, which is that wonderful right foot, be it being that little bit further forward on the right hand side and trying to get those shots off with his right foot, or those incredibly dangerous passes or crossfield passes with that right foot on the left hand side of the pitch. So in terms of this preview and those 2 players in particular, I don't really have the answers right now. It's a question. How do you play those 2 players who want to have that free role and allow them both to do exactly what they want? If you do that, you're going to have holes in behind, but you could also dominate. It's a lovely conundrum for Martinez to have, but the main role for both of them, of course, is to feed that man, Romelu Lukaku. Throughout Romelu Lukaku's career, he has been accused of being a flat-track bully. Now, of course, I think he offers so much more apart from goals, but specifically in that metric of goals, when you look into the stats throughout his career, there are some elements which suggest that he has been a bit of a flat-track bully, that he has dominated against the smaller sides. For Manchester United, he made 96 appearances, he scored 42 goals, but only one of those was against the Big Six. Of course, he's moved to Inter Milan and he scored some crucial, massive goals for them. So within that realm, it's done, it's dusted. He's not a flat track bully. But when you look at his international stats, what's interesting is that going into this tournament, I think you need to see a little bit more. And I think the Romelu Lukaku we have now will kind of break free from this idea. But if you do look at the stats, 59 goals from 91 appearances for Belgium. So many games, 91 appearances for Belgium is a fantastic record. But when you look at who Lukaku has scored against, in terms of big nations, he's actually only scored goals against England and the Netherlands. What I will say is that I challenge Lukaku and I expect him to step up in this tournament. He is the best striker, the best image of himself that he has ever been. And so for him, he's going to be a very crucial man for Belgium, because if they're going to have to get to the next stage where they win these tournaments, where they get to the final of these tournaments, you're going to need your big strikers to score big goals in big games. Now, if we look at the 3 recent qualifiers, the lineups are all very, very similar, and Martinez wants to play a specific way, which is good. The team knows what is going to be asked of them. It's going to be a 3-4-3. The question that I would like to put to you guys, let me know in the comments below, is this actually the best use of the talent pool that Belgium have? Because when you look at the defence in any of those lineups, there are huge question marks, because this is an incredibly creaky defence. The defence is littered with people the wrong side of 30 and lacking pace. 2 wide centre-backs being Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld. Now, 3 or 4 years ago, you'd do that and it'd be absolutely fine. And of course, generally those two, they make the right decisions at the right times, but they do lack pace. And that is a recipe for disaster when you're playing 3 at the back. Now, the results are there for all to see in the qualifiers, and of course they've also beaten an England side as well with a back 3 that does have that little bit of pace from Denier, but Thomas Vermaelen at his age really shouldn't be playing international football anymore, and if he is, he should be surrounded by pace. And then if you go a little bit further back, you've got someone like Courtois, who again, on paper, looks amazing, and of course is a great goalkeeper, but is he a sweeper keeper? If you're going to have a team that's going to want to dominate possession, is playing 3 at the back going to work? Now, this back 3 does turn into a bit of a sort of elbowed back 4 with Thomas Meunier sort of filling in and Vertonghen going and playing left back. But again, the frailties are there. And for a team that maybe is able to kind of sit back and counter-attack at pace, if you are able to stop this Belgian side, then you might have a good chance in scoring a goal. Look, Wales was a great example. Of course, they lost in that game, but they did score a great goal on the counter-attack. Now, this isn't the worst ploy, because if you've got these players moving forward and you've got the quality that Belgium have, Lukaku, Dries Mertens, Tielemans, De Bruyne, so many great players, then it's understandable. You can do it, but it is a risk. Now, I feel like I've been quite negative in this preview, and don't worry, I will get to kind of a positive nugget a little bit later on. I think the thing that concerns me is, of course, the average age, but I think that's something that will also get them quite far in the competition. To have an average age of over 30 is almost unheard of, but for this tournament, specifically this tournament, you know, that age and experience and, you know, the amount of big games that these players have had, and the understanding that this might be the last chance, I think will embolden this squad more so than make them kind of crumble at the thought of it. I think this will energize and motivate them and give them the steel that will get them deeper into the competition. I see them going to the semi-finals and very, very comfortably. The reason I say that is they have quite a favourable route to that semi-final at the moment, and the group that they have is also quite a comfortable one that should allow them to really kind of catch fire and gain momentum. And that might be enough for the likes of Eden Hazard to kind of get into the squad, get into the team, and to sort of catch fire, because of course he is a match winner on his own. The 3-4-3 feels like it's set in stone. The one thing that I do wonder, and I'll be intrigued to see, is if they try and kind of work around that and maybe go to a bit more of a your normal back four to try and get Eden Hazard and Kevin De Bruyne in this team. But these are great questions and problems for them to have. It's in that semi-final, and who they play there, it's most likely to be the likes of England, Portugal, France, or Spain. One of those. Germany possibly as well, depending on how they get on in the group. And so when it gets to the semi-finals, then it comes down to those big players and that back line being able to deal with the pace of the opponent. So we will see. So many questions here. And as ever, like, you know, sometimes I want to offer up the answers, but I'm not sure I have them right now, because this is a very, very good team, but it is starting to creak a little, and it'll be interesting to see if it creaks more under the pressure. I don't think it will, but what do you guys think? Let me know down below. I hope you've enjoyed all of the Euros previews that I've put together. Massive, massive thank you to all the people behind the scenes that have put these together. Editor Ben, Kai helping me with some of the stats here, and of course, WHOASSISTED. Go check them out on Twitter, give them a follow on Instagram as well. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more of the Euros content that is sure to come on the JLA channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.